The Galactic Council chamber hummed with nervous energy as Ambassador Zethkar of the Vortanian Empire stepped forward. His crystalline form caught the artificial light, casting rainbow patterns across the assembled delegates from 47 different species. Today's emergency session had been called for one reason. The humans had finally responded to the galaxy's ultimatum. For 300 years, humanity had claimed a massive sector of space spanning 12 star systems. They called it the Sol Exclusion Zone, and no alien ship had ever been permitted to enter. Not for trade, not for diplomacy, not even for emergency assistance. The humans politely but firmly turned everyone away with a simple message. This territory is restricted. Please maintain safe distance. The galaxy had grown tired of this isolation. These young upstarts, barely 2 centuries into space travel, dared to claim some of the richest systems in the Outer Rim. Systems that contained rare minerals, perfect garden worlds, and strategic hyperspace routes that could revolutionize galactic commerce. Fellow delegates, Zethkar's voice resonated through his translator, we have received humanity's final response to our demand for territorial negotiations. A hologram materialized above the central platform. The image showed a middle-aged human woman in a simple blue uniform. Admiral Sarah Chen, humanity's representative to the Galactic Council, though she had never once attended a session in person. Greetings, members of the Galactic Council, the recorded message began. Admiral Chen's voice was steady, almost conversational. We have received your ultimatum regarding the Sol Exclusion Zone. After careful consideration by the United Earth Government and our colonial administrations, our response remains unchanged. This territory is restricted. We strongly advise maintaining safe distance. The hologram flickered and died. Silence filled the chamber for several heartbeats before erupting into chaos. Unacceptable! Roared General Krex of the hegemony. His insectoid mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. They mock us with their arrogance! Ambassador Veltar of the Trade Federation's tentacles writhed in frustration. The economic implications are staggering. Those systems contain trilithium deposits that could power our entire civilization for millennia. We cannot allow a single species to hoard such resources. Zethkar raised one of his 4 arms for silence. The Council has been patient. We offered them membership, trade agreements, even defensive pacts. They have rejected everything in favor of their incomprehensible isolation. The Arcturian delegate, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell, pulsed with agitated light patterns. Perhaps isolation was their goal from the beginning. Intelligence suggests they are developing weapons technology in secret. Their exclusion zone could be hiding military installations. This revelation sent fresh waves of concern through the assembly. The youngest spacefaring species, hiding behind closed borders while potentially developing superior weaponry. It challenged everything the established galactic order represented. High Counselor Mextar, an ancient being whose species had founded the Galactic Council 8,000 years ago, slowly rose from his floating platform. His voice carried the weight of millennia when he spoke. The time for diplomatic solutions has passed. Humanity has chosen isolation over integration, secrecy over transparency. Their continued occupation of the Sol Exclusion Zone represents a threat to galactic peace and prosperity. The chamber fell silent. When the High Counselor spoke of threats to galactic peace, military action invariably followed. I hereby authorize the formation of a joint fleet to enforce Galactic Council Resolution 4472, the immediate dissolution of the human exclusion zone and the integration of those systems into the galactic community under Council oversight. The vote was swift and overwhelming. Only 3 species abstained, citing insufficient intelligence about human capabilities. 44 species committed ships and personnel to what military planners estimated would be a brief police action. General Krex took command of the expedition. His species, the hegemony, had the largest and most experienced fleet in the galaxy. They had fought dozens of integration wars, bringing stubborn species into the galactic fold through superior firepower and tactical brilliance. Humans have no experience with real warfare, he assured the War Council during their final briefing. Their longest conflict lasted merely 6 years. Compare that to our century-long campaign to pacify the Outer Rim. They lack both the technology and the temperament for serious military resistance. The joint fleet assembled at Rally Point Epsilon, just outside the Sol exclusion zone's posted boundaries. 800 ships representing the combined might of the galactic community, dreadnoughts capable of glassing planets, carrier groups with thousands of fighter craft, and support vessels loaded with occupation forces. Admiral Corvex of the Altarian Navy reviewed the tactical displays with satisfaction. His blue-scaled features reflected the glow of the holographic battle plans. Intelligence estimates suggest humans possess perhaps 50 ships of significant size. Our force represents a 16-to-1 advantage in capital vessels alone. The fleet approached the boundary markers that humans had placed centuries ago. Simple automated beacons broadcasting their endless warning. This territory is restricted. Please maintain safe distance. General Krex ordered the first wave to advance. 100 ships crossed the invisible line that had never been violated by alien vessels. Nothing happened. No defensive fleet rose to meet them. No orbital platforms opened fire. The ships proceeded deeper into human territory, sensors scanning for any sign of resistance. "Where are their defenses?" Admiral Corvex muttered, studying his displays. "Long-range sensors show no significant military installations on the outer worlds." "Perhaps they're hiding on the inner planets," suggested Colonel Vertan of the Marine Expeditionary Force. "Classic defense in depth strategy." The fleet advanced toward the first inhabited world, Kepler 442b, listed in their databases as New Geneva. A planet with a population of 12 million humans spread across 3 continents. As they approached the planet, finally something responded to their presence. A single small craft, barely larger than a shuttle, rose from the planet's surface to intercept them. General Krex watched the tiny vessel approach his massive dreadnought with something between amusement and insult. Were the humans really sending a single ship to face his entire fleet? The small craft took position directly in the fleet's path and broadcast a message. The pilot was a young human male, perhaps 30 years old, wearing what appeared to be a civilian uniform. "Attention, unknown fleet. This is Captain James Morrison of the New Geneva Defense Force. You have entered restricted territory in violation of clearly posted warnings. I am authorized to offer you one final opportunity to withdraw beyond the exclusion zone boundary." The bridge of General Krex's flagship erupted in laughter. Several officers had to steady themselves against their consoles. "A single pilot?" Admiral Corvex gasped between fits of laughter. "They send one ship against 800? General Krex activated his communications array. "Human pilot, you are addressing the legitimate authority of the Galactic Council. Stand down immediately and prepare for inspection, or you will be destroyed." Captain Morrison's response came after a brief pause. "General, I understand this is your first time entering human space. Let me be very clear about something. We don't surrender, we don't retreat, and we don't negotiate with invaders." "Then you will die pointlessly," General Krex snarled, his patience exhausted. "Weapons! Target that insignificant craft! Show these humans the price of defying the galactic order." The flagship's main batteries swiveled toward the human vessel. Plasma cannons that could punch through battleship armor locked onto the tiny target. "Fire!" General Krex commanded. Brilliant energy beams lanced across space toward Captain Morrison's ship. At that range, against such a small target, the shot should have been instantaneous and absolute. Instead, something impossible happened. The human vessel simply wasn't there when the beams arrived. It had moved, impossibly fast, impossibly precise, dodging weapons fire that should have been unavoidable. "What?" Admiral Corvex stared at his displays in confusion. How did they evade? Those were targeted computer locks. Captain Morrison's ship had not only dodged, but had somehow positioned itself behind the flagship's main formation in the space of a heartbeat. Gentlemen, Morrison's voice crackled over the comm, now transmitted from their rear flank. I tried to warn you, but since you insist on learning the hard way, let me show you why nobody crosses into human territory. The human ship opened fire, not with the primitive kinetic weapons or basic energy beams that galactic intelligence had predicted, but with something that made General Krex's blood run cold. A lance of impossible energy, brighter than a star and more focused than a laser, sliced through space and struck one of the fleet's heavy cruisers. The ship, protected by shields that could withstand direct hits from asteroid impacts, simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not damaged, completely gone, as if it had never been there at all. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of electronics and the rapid breathing of the crew. "Report!" General Krex shouted. "What just happened to the inevitable victory?" "Sir," the sensor operator's voice shook. "There's nothing left to report. The ship is gone. No debris, no energy signature, no trace. It's as if it was never there." Before anyone could process this information, Morrison's ship fired again. Another impossible beam, another heavy cruiser simply erased from existence. Panic began to spread through the fleet communications channels. Captains demanded orders, crews reported impossible sensor readings, and Admiral Corvex found himself staring at tactical displays that made no sense whatsoever. "All ships, evasive maneuvers!" General Krex commanded. "Return fire! Destroy that human vessel!" Hundreds of ships opened fire simultaneously, filling space with deadly energy. The human pilot danced between the beams like they were moving in slow motion, his ship performing maneuvers that should have turned any organic crew into paste from the acceleration forces. And with each impossible dodge, Captain Morrison's ship fired back. Each shot eliminated another vessel from the galactic fleet with surgical precision. "This is impossible," Admiral Corvex whispered, watching his tactical display update as ships vanished one by one. No single pilot, no matter how skilled, could outmaneuver an entire fleet. General Krex was beginning to understand that humanity's 300-year isolation had not been about fear or primitive technology. They had been preparing. The galaxy had mistaken restraint for weakness and secrecy for backwardness. "Sir," the communications officer called out urgently, "we're receiving multiple contacts rising from the planet's surface, hundreds of them." The main display updated to show swarms of craft rising from New Geneva. Each one was the same size as Morrison's ship, and if they possessed even a fraction of his capabilities... "General!" Morrison's voice came over the comm again, now transmitted from directly above the flagship. "Last chance. Withdraw from human space now, or my friends and I will have to remove you." General Krex looked at his displays. In less than 10 minutes, a single human pilot had eliminated 37 ships from his fleet, while taking 0 damage in return. Now hundreds more just like him were rising to join the fight. For the first time in his long military career, General Krex felt true fear. "All ships," he commanded, his voice barely steady. "Emergency withdrawal. Maximum speed back to Rally Point Epsilon." But as the fleet turned to flee, they discovered that humanity had one more surprise waiting for them. The boundary of the exclusion zone, which they had crossed so easily just hours before, was now blocked. A defensive line of human ships stretched across their escape route, not small fighters like Morrison's craft, but true warships. Sleek, angular vessels that looked nothing like the curved, organic designs favored by galactic civilization. And unlike the rest of the galaxy, which relied on energy shielding and armor plating for protection, these human ships seemed to shimmer and phase, as if they existed only partially in normal space. Admiral Chen's voice broadcast across all frequencies, her tone still conversational despite the circumstances. Attention, Galactic Council Fleet. You have committed an act of war against the United Earth government and its colonial territories. Your ships and personnel are now considered hostile combatants. However, humanity has always preferred mercy to vengeance. General Krex found himself holding his breath. You will proceed to the coordinates I am transmitting and await further instructions. Any attempt to flee or continue hostilities will result in the complete destruction of your fleet. Admiral Chen out. The coordinates led to an empty patch of space just inside the exclusion zone boundary. As the defeated galactic fleet limped toward their designated position, General Krex realized he had made a terrible mistake. Humanity hadn't been hiding from the galaxy. They had been protecting it from themselves. 3 days had passed since the humiliating defeat at New Geneva, and the surviving ships of the Galactic Council fleet remained trapped in the designated coordinates. No human vessel approached them, no demands were made, no communications received, beyond the basic necessity supplies that appeared via automated drones. The silence was perhaps worse than any torture. General Krex paced the bridge of his flagship, the fear of enemies, watching the human perimeter ships that held his force prisoner. They maintained perfect formation at impossible distances, their crews apparently capable of instantaneous coordination across thousands of kilometers. Sir, Captain Wexelor approached cautiously. The Council is demanding a status report. High Counselor Mextar has sent 17 urgent messages in the past hour. Krex turned away from the view screen. How could he explain what had happened here? How could he make them understand that everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong? Tell the Council, he said slowly, that we have encountered an unexpected tactical situation and are reassessing our approach. Before Captain Wexelor could respond, every screen on the bridge simultaneously activated. Admiral Chen appeared, but not as a holographic recording this time. This was a live transmission, and she was clearly aboard a starship. General Krex, she said, settling into what appeared to be a captain's chair, I believe it's time we had a proper conversation. The general straightened his military bearing despite the circumstances. Admiral Chen, I demand the immediate release of my fleet and safe passage back to Council space. Chen smiled, and something in that expression made Krex's skin crawl. I'm afraid that's not going to happen, General. You see, you've created what my people call a situation. Your invasion has forced us to reconsider our isolationist policies. Invasion? Krex sputtered. This was a legitimate police action authorized by the Galactic Council to integrate unlawfully claimed territory. From your perspective, perhaps. Chen leaned forward. But from our perspective, 44 species just declared war on humanity. That changes things considerably. A new voice cut into the transmission. General, if I may. The speaker was an elderly human male, with deep lines around his eyes and steel-gray hair. I'm President Harrison of the United Earth Government. Admiral Chen has briefed me on the situation. President Harrison continued, his tone diplomatic but firm. General, we need you to understand something fundamental about humanity. For 300 years, we've maintained our isolation not out of fear, but out of respect for galactic peace. We've been protecting you from us. Protecting us? General Krex laughed bitterly. From what? Your 50 ships and primitive technology? Observer, Admiral Chen called out, apparently addressing someone off-screen. Please bring the General up to current intelligence levels. The transmission shifted to show the bridge of Chen's ship, and Krex felt his laugh die in his throat. The bridge was enormous, easily the size of his flagship's entire command deck. Crew stations stretched as far as he could see, each manned by humans working with technology that looked decades ahead of anything in the galactic database. But it wasn't the technology that made his blood run cold. It was the displays. Tactical screens showed not just the local area around New Geneva, but the entire galaxy. Every major fleet position, every orbital installation, every defensive platform in Council space was marked and tracked in real time. "This is impossible," he whispered. "You would need intelligence networks spanning the entire galaxy to compile this information." "We do," Admiral Chen said simply. "General, let me introduce you to the real scope of humanity's presence in this galaxy." The displays shifted, showing a three-dimensional map of galactic space. The 12-system Sol exclusion zone appeared as a small red cluster on the rim. But as Krex watched, thousands of other markers began appearing throughout the galaxy. Green dots scattered across every major trade route, hidden among asteroid belts, tucked into the gravity shadows of gas giants. Each of those markers, President Harrison explained, represents a human observation post, research station, or defensive installation. We've been watching galactic civilization for 3 centuries, learning, preparing, and hoping we'd never need to reveal ourselves. General Krex sank into his command chair. The exclusion zone was a deception. You were never confined to those 12 systems. The exclusion zone, Chen corrected, is where we keep our civilians and our industrial centers, the places we don't want disturbed by galactic politics. But our actual presence extends throughout known space and beyond. Admiral Chen stood and moved to another display. "Let me show you what happened when your fleet crossed our boundary, General. Observer, activate tactical playback." The screen showed the battle from an external perspective. Krex watched his fleet advance confidently into human space, saw Captain Morrison's small ship rise to meet them, witnessed the impossible dogfight that followed. But now he could see what his instruments had missed during the battle. As Morrison danced between the fleet's weapons fire, dozens of other human ships had been moving through the battlefield. Invisible to galactic sensors, they had positioned themselves throughout his formation. "Stealth technology," he breathed. "Among other things," Chen agreed. "Captain Morrison wasn't fighting your fleet alone, General. He was the distraction. 37 of our ships could have eliminated your entire force in the first minute of combat. We chose to make a demonstration instead." The playback continued, showing the aftermath of the battle. The destroyed galactic ships hadn't been vaporized, as it appeared. They had been teleported away, crews and all, to detention facilities elsewhere in human space. "Your people are alive," President Harrison assured him. "We don't make war on individuals, only on systems that threaten galactic peace." "But we are the galactic peace," Krex protested. "The Council has maintained order for 8,000 years. "The Council," Admiral Chen said quietly, "has maintained stagnation. In 8,000 years, has any species developed truly revolutionary technology? Has anyone made breakthroughs in faster-than-light travel, energy generation, or resource utilization?" Krex thought about it and realized she was right. Galactic technology had remained essentially static for millennia. New variations on old themes, refinements of existing concepts, but no genuine innovations. "Why?" he asked. "Because innovation requires competition," President Harrison explained. "And the Council eliminates competition through integration, when every species follows the same technological path, uses the same research databases, shares the same scientific assumptions, progress stops." Admiral Chen activated another display. "Let me show you what humanity has achieved in 3 centuries of independent research." The screen filled with images that defied everything Krex thought he knew about physics. Ships that existed partially outside normal space-time, weapons that could unravel matter at the quantum level, energy sources that tapped directly into dimensional boundaries. "We didn't just develop better weapons and defenses," Chen continued. "We developed better ways of thinking about reality itself. While the galaxy refined existing technologies, we reinvented the fundamental principles of science." "This is why you remained isolated," Krex said, understanding beginning to dawn. "You weren't afraid of us. You were afraid for us." "Precisely," President Harrison nodded. A species with our technological capabilities, integrated into galactic civilization, would dominate everything. Trade, politics, military affairs, scientific research. We would become what the Council is now, but with the power to enforce our will across the entire galaxy. Admiral Chen's expression grew serious. We chose isolation to prevent that outcome, General. But your invasion has forced our hand. The existence of our technology can no longer remain secret. The question now is what happens next. General Krex found himself in the strange position of negotiating with captors who seemed more concerned about their prisoners' welfare than their own victory. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "Nothing," President Harrison said simply. "We want to return to our isolation and let galactic civilization continue on its chosen path. But that's no longer possible, is it?" Chen activated a communications array. "Observer, show the General Current Council communications traffic." The screen filled with urgent transmissions between Council worlds, fleet mobilizations, emergency sessions, technological analysis requests, and most disturbing of all, military alliance negotiations aimed at mounting a larger invasion force. "Your defeat hasn't convinced them to leave us alone," Chen observed. "It's convinced them that humanity represents an existential threat to their authority. They're planning to return with everything they have." "The entire galactic fleet," Krex said numbly, watching the intelligence reports scroll past. "Every ship, every alliance, every species that owes the Council loyalty." "Approximately 40,000 vessels," Admiral Chen confirmed. "Along with planetary bombardment capabilities, biological weapons, and something called the Void Makers." General Krex's blood turned to ice. "They're actually considering the Void Makers? Those weapons are forbidden. They can sterilize entire star systems." "Apparently," President Harrison said grimly, "the Council has decided that humanity's continued existence represents a greater threat than unleashing doomsday weapons." Chen stood and moved to the center of the bridge. "General, I need you to understand something. We've spent 3 centuries preparing for the possibility that galactic civilization might force us into open conflict. We have contingency plans that stretch across hundreds of worlds and thousands of scenarios. But we never wanted to use them," President Harrison added. "Every plan, every weapon, every defensive measure was designed around one hope, that we'd never need them." Admiral Chen looked directly into the camera. "Your Council's response has eliminated that hope, General. If they come for us with everything they have, we'll have no choice but to respond with everything we have." "What does that mean?" Krex asked, though he was beginning to fear the answer. "It means," Chen said quietly, "that the galactic civilization you know will cease to exist, not because we want to destroy it, but because the Council has decided that it's us or them. And, General, it's not going to be us." The transmission ended, leaving General Krex alone with the horrifying realization that his invasion hadn't just failed. It had started a war that would reshape the entire galaxy. And humanity wasn't planning to lose. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 6 straight days. Representatives from all 47 member species packed the Great Chamber, while holographic displays showed the massive fleet assembling at staging points throughout Council space. 40,000 ships, the largest military force in galactic history, prepared to end humanity's defiance once and for all. High Counselor Mextar floated above the assembly, his ancient form pulsing with grim determination. "Fellow beings, the reports from General Krex's expedition have been illuminating. Humanity possesses technology beyond our current understanding, but this only reinforces the necessity of our action." Ambassador Veltar's tentacles writhed nervously. "High Counselor, perhaps we should consider alternative approaches. If their technology is truly so advanced, military action might be inadvisable." "Unacceptable!" General Supreme Commander Thexnall of the combined fleets slammed his armored fist against his podium. No single species, regardless of their technological advantages, can stand against the united strength of 47 civilizations. We have numerical superiority of 800 to 1. The Arcturian delegate pulsed with agitated light. The general raises valid points, but we must consider the implications of human statements regarding galactic civilization. Their technology appears to be fundamentally different from ours, possibly operating on entirely different scientific principles. High Counselor Mextar raised one massive arm for silence. The analysis teams have reviewed all available data. While human technology is indeed advanced, it is not magical. Every species in galactic history has believed their weapons were invincible until they met superior numbers and determination. What the Council didn't know was that every word of their deliberations was being monitored by human intelligence networks embedded throughout galactic space. In a secure conference room on Earth's orbital command station, Admiral Chen watched the proceedings with President Harrison and the combined defense staff. "They're really going to do it," observed General Martinez, head of Human Defense Forces. 40,000 ships, including dreadnoughts with planet-killing capability. President Harrison studied the intelligence reports, flowing across multiple screens. "And they're bringing the Voidmakers. I honestly didn't think they'd go that far." Admiral Chen pulled up tactical displays showing human defensive positions. "Observer, current fleet status report." "All defensive fleets are in position," the AI responded in its calm, synthetic voice. "Perimeter stations report ready status. Deep space assets are deployed along predicted approach vectors." "How many ships do we have available for fleet action?" the President asked. "Approximately 6,000 vessels capable of direct combat operations," Admiral Chen replied, "though that doesn't include our mobile platforms or the deep field installations." General Martinez looked concerned. 6-to-1 odds, even with our technological advantages, represents significant risk. Are we certain this is the optimal approach? Admiral Chen activated a holographic display showing the galaxy from humanity's perspective. Instead of the traditional political boundaries, this map showed technological development zones, resource distribution networks, and what the AI designated as influence gradients. "General, the Council has made this decision for us. They've chosen to interpret our self-defense as aggression, our advanced technology as a threat to galactic order. From their perspective, this is an existential conflict." President Harrison leaned back in his chair. "And from our perspective?" "From our perspective," Chen replied quietly, "this is about survival, not just of our species, but of the principle that civilization should be allowed to develop without being forced into someone else's vision of order." The President nodded grimly. "Very well. Admiral, you have authorization for Implementation Protocol 7. Rules of engagement are defensive priority with graduated response authorization." "Understood, sir. Observer, transmit implementation codes to all commands. Initiate Protocol 7. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council had completed their debate. High Counselor Mextar announced the formal declaration of total integration action against human territories. Unlike their previous police action, this would be an all-out military campaign designed to completely occupy human space and integrate their populations into galactic civilization. General Supreme Commander Thexnall took overall command of the operation, with specific tactical command distributed among the most experienced fleet commanders in galactic space. They had learned from General Krex's mistakes and would not underestimate human capabilities again. "All ships," Thexnall broadcast to the assembled armada, "maintain maximum defensive postures during approach. Human vessels have demonstrated advanced maneuverability and stealth capabilities. Trust your instruments and maintain formation discipline." The largest fleet in galactic history began its advance toward the Sol exclusion zone. 40,000 ships arranged in massive battle formations, their combined firepower capable of sterilizing hundreds of worlds. As they approached the boundary markers that had stood unchallenged for 3 centuries, the fleet detected no immediate signs of human resistance. Long-range sensors showed the same defensive positions they had mapped during the previous engagement, with no apparent reinforcement. "Curious," Admiral Corvex observed from his position commanding the primary assault group. "Intelligence suggested they would reinforce their perimeter after our first probe. Instead, they appear to be using identical defensive formations." "Perhaps," suggested Commander Velnix of the Science Division, "they lack the industrial capacity to significantly expand their forces. 300 years of isolation may have limited their population and manufacturing base." As the Galactic Fleet crossed into human territory, they detected the same automated warning beacons broadcasting their endless message. "This territory is restricted. Please maintain safe distance." But this time, something was different. Additional messages began broadcasting on emergency frequencies. "Attention Galactic Council Fleet. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. You are approaching sovereign human territory with clearly hostile intent. Under the laws of war as recognized by galactic civilization, we are authorized to use any means necessary to defend our territories and populations." General Supreme Commander Thexanol responded immediately. "Admiral Chen, you are addressing the legitimate authority of the Galactic Council. Your continued resistance to lawful integration violates fundamental principles of galactic order. Surrender immediately and prepare for peaceful occupation." Admiral Chen's response came after a brief pause. "General, 3 days ago I had a conversation with your subordinate General Krex. I explained to him that humanity has spent 3 centuries hoping we would never need to demonstrate our full capabilities. You have now made that demonstration inevitable. Admiral, you face the combined might of 47 civilizations. Your technological advantages cannot overcome such overwhelming numerical superiority." "General," Chen replied, her tone becoming almost sympathetic, "you're about to learn why no species has ever dared to cross into human territory twice. The first sign that something was wrong came from the fleet's long-range sensors. Stars throughout the region began displaying unusual energy signatures, as if massive artificial objects were somehow interacting with stellar mechanics." "Report!" General Thexnall demanded. "What are those energy readings?" "Sir," the chief science officer's voice carried barely controlled panic, "we're detecting artificial structures around multiple stars in this sector. The energy output suggests, sir, they appear to be stellar engineering projects on an impossible scale." Before anyone could process this information, space around the galactic fleet began to change. What had appeared to be empty void suddenly filled with structures that defied every principle of physics and engineering they knew. Massive ring-shaped constructions, each one large enough to encircle a gas giant, materialized around the fleet. They hadn't been hidden by stealth technology or sensor jamming. They had been existing in a parallel dimensional space and had now shifted into normal reality. "This is impossible," Admiral Corvex whispered, staring at displays that showed structures larger than anything galactic civilization had ever conceived. "Nothing that large could be built without being detected during construction." Admiral Chen's voice broadcast across all frequencies. "General, what you're seeing represents 3 centuries of human engineering projects. While your civilization focused on political integration and technological refinement, we've been building the infrastructure necessary to defend ourselves against exactly this situation." The ring structures began to activate, and the galactic fleet discovered what true advanced technology looked like. Beams of energy that could reshape matter at the quantum level, gravitational manipulators that could crush starships like toys, and defensive fields that existed outside normal space-time. But the human assault wasn't random destruction. Each targeting solution was precise, calculated to disable rather than destroy. Galactic ships found their weapons systems severed, their engines neutralized, their communications arrays precisely extracted without harming the crews. "Surrender," Admiral Chen broadcast to the paralyzed fleet. "Your ships are disabled, but your crews are unharmed. We have no desire to commit genocide, but we will not allow you to threaten our people." General Thexnall, watching his magnificent armada reduced to helpless scrap in a matter of minutes, found himself facing a choice no galactic commander had ever confronted. Surrender to a species the Council had tried to destroy, or escalate to weapons that could end all life in this sector of space. "Activate the Void Makers," he ordered quietly. The weapons were ancient artifacts, created during the First Galactic Wars 10,000 years ago. They had been used only once, to end a conflict that threatened to destroy galactic civilization itself. Each device could unmake matter at a fundamental level, turning entire star systems into empty space. "Sir," his weapons officer protested, "the Void Makers will destroy everything within a 50 light-year radius. That includes our own fleet." "Better that than allowing these humans to threaten galactic order," Thexanal replied grimly. But as the terrible weapons powered up, space around them changed again. The stellar engineering projects that had been merely background energy signatures revealed their true purpose. Stars throughout the sector began moving, not the slow orbital mechanics of natural astronomy, but rapid, precise repositioning managed by technologies that treated stellar masses like construction materials. Admiral Chen's final transmission came as the galactic fleet watched their universe literally rearrange itself around them. "General, we tried to warn you. We tried to protect galactic civilization from what we've become. But you interpreted our mercy as weakness and our restraint as cowardice. Now you've forced us to show you why we stayed hidden." The stars formed a pattern, a configuration that created gravitational effects no natural physics could produce. The Void Makers, powerful enough to destroy star systems, found their energies contained and redirected by forces that operated on a galactic scale. "This is what 3 centuries of unrestricted human development produces," Chen continued. "We don't just build better ships or stronger weapons, we rebuild reality itself to serve our purposes, and now, thanks to your arrogance, the entire galaxy will know what we're capable of." General Thexanal watched his greatest weapons fail against defenses that treated the fundamental forces of physics as engineering tools. Around him, the largest fleet in galactic history sat helpless, while humans demonstrated that they hadn't just advanced beyond galactic technology, they had transcended it. The final irony was that humanity still offered mercy. Transport ships appeared throughout the disabled fleet, offering medical aid and safe passage home. No execution squads, no territorial demands, no occupation forces. Just a simple message broadcast to every Council world simultaneously. The Sol exclusion zone remains in effect. We strongly recommend respecting the posted boundaries, for everyone's sake. In the end, the galaxy paid for its arrogance, not with destruction, but with the knowledge that somewhere beyond the warning beacons, humanity was building things that made the Council's greatest achievements look like children's toys. And every species that had contributed to the invasion now faced the same question. What do you do when you've made an enemy of the beings who can rearrange stars? The answer, for the first time in galactic history, was to hope that mercy was stronger than justice, because humanity had both, and the power to enforce either one.